I just see this guy running, this character running up, and then he just stops. He's like, "We're playing with a girl? I thought we were playing with a kid."
What's up, Yap Squad, and welcome back to another episode of the Yap Sesh podcast. If you're new here, my name is Sawyer, and I'm with my co-host Brooke, and we are Yap Sesh, a fangirl podcast where we discuss all things fandom and nerdy, and hope to share the experiences of women and queer fans everywhere. You can check us out on Spotify and YouTube, as well as Apple Podcasts, and make sure to subscribe and follow so you never miss an episode. What's going on, Brooke?
You know. I feel like that's how I always answer that question. I'm a little tired. I've got 2 days left of summer camp. So and some small child got me sick, so we're a little sniffly. But I am making a lot of crochet octopi lately.
I don't know.
Working on one
cute.
right now. I need something to do with my hands at all times, or I get distracted. But yeah, how's it going?
You know, I am getting ready. I'm getting my new apartment ready for some company this weekend.
Oh, who's that? Who's visiting you?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm pretty sure it's actually you.
Joking. Yeah, it is me. I'm so excited. We're gonna hang out and go to the New York Renaissance Fair on Saturday and dress up, and because I take everything way too seriously and am not chill about anything, I'm finishing my costume tomorrow, probably. And then we're going to go to a baseball game on Sunday.
I am super excited. This is, much needed and going to be a fun friend outing for us. And we might do some Yap stuff. You never know. But anyway, I think we should get right into our episode because we have a wonderful guest with us today. So without further ado, hello! For those of you who may not be acquainted, this is our friend Jackie, aka GeekyFriedRice. Jackie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Who you are? What do you do?
Well, as you said, my name is Jackie. I'm a game dev. I work in the video game industry. I work specifically on Star Wars: The Old Republic for basically community comms, a little bit of marketing, this and that. So lots of different hats. I don't stream very often, but every so often I will participate in like charity streams and just, try to help out some causes that are close to my heart, help out friends, or just, have a good time with a lot of folks within my circle. Sometimes I do TikTok content for fun. I tend to do just fun voiceover stuff. I do like a variety of content. I don't have like a niche per se, but I just like to have fun and apologize beforehand preemptively.
You know what? I am like very much Brooke has been kind of getting me. Like I sometimes Brooke is like I consider her like this voice in the back of my head that's like, you need to do these things. And one of those things is like, stop taking TikTok so seriously. And so I've finally started doing that. So my page is also kind of all over the place these days. But you know what? It's fun. And anyway, but we are so privileged on YapSesh to have so many amazing women and femmes in the content creation industry, but also other industries. And as you said, you're a game dev. So we would love to know how you got into the gaming industry, because my partner is a software developer and his dream is to be a game dev, but just to break into the space in general, I know is difficult. So I'd love to hear about your experience, how you got into it, and maybe some of the challenges you faced having to get into it like as a woman. Because I'm sure it hasn't.
That's like 3 episodes long right there. Well, I can really only speak to the path that I was on and my own personal experiences. So just like a preemptive like disclaimer, I'm only speaking for myself. But what kind of served me well, this was, God, I'm about to date myself, over 10 years ago. I want to say, like, video games have always been a part of my life. ever since I was, baby Jackie, which was quite a long time ago. But I never saw myself working in games. So this was actually a pleasant surprise to myself. But I did ask that same exact question to a friend quite a while back. And then he said, if you have a passion for it and you know roughly the field that you want to go into, talk to the people who do those things. Network. Like, yes, you can go to shows and conventions and everything like that, but it's not very easily accessible. Some people do not have the means to do so. Travel is very expensive. Lodging is very expensive. So the world of social media opened up a lot of paths and doors for me. And quite honestly, one of the first things that I did was help out with some communications and community for a very, very small team of folks who were in the modding community, and they wanted to focus on Fallout. And so I was kind of like helping with them. And funny enough, I actually wanted to do narrative design. I wanted to be a writer. Excuse me, seasonal asthma. But they're like, oh, you're also really good at this community stuff. Can you help us talk to people? I'm like, you know what? We need the resource, so why not? And so I started diving into that, and I started getting more experience that way. And I found that I did actually have a love for it. And so I started talking to people of like mind, just like becoming a mod on forums, gaining experience that way. Even streaming. I am not the best streamer. I'm not a professional by any means, but having that experience, being able to talk to people, especially in real time, also moderating some of those comments that tend to come in, it's all experience. And so I tell people, hone in on the skill sets, especially that you see these roles really focus on, because a lot of times they think, oh well, say it like a streamer says, well, I want to be in community management, and it's like, you have some of the skills already. You do it every single time that you push record or go live. So you kind of have to like translate that. So it's actually really funny how a lot of the skill sets tend to cross over a lot of the times, but it's just not as easily identifiable. So I would say figure that stuff out, and then also network and talk to the people who are in the field that you are interested in.
I'm going to say is it's so interesting to me how we're existing in this space, and a lot of the conversations that we have on this show, because we're all very heavily on social media, we've mostly, I mean, Brooke and I met through social media. A lot of our friend group is from social media. A lot of us had time to form these relationships over COVID.
Mhm.
And it's fascinating to me how not just, I mean, it sounds like the gaming industry has been molded that way, and that's your experience, not everybody's experience. But I've heard similar stories about people getting journalism opportunities and
Mhm.
people turning their content creation and podcasting into full-time editing positions and like stuff like that. And I think it's so we exist in this time where it's like not just about your credentials on paper. It's actually what are these skills that you're picking up in your communities. And I think that's really interesting because when I think about I'm trying to get into the more like journalism focused space of fandom a little bit, and I'm thinking
Mhm.
like, what do I know how to do? Well, I certainly know how to command an audience. I certainly know how to moderate comments.
Mhm.
um and you're right, you're totally right. There's a lot of skills that we don't even think about that we just have. But anyway, um I don't want to speak over you, Brooke. I just know that you don't really have a voice today. So
Oh no, I'm good. I think I agree. I think it's cool that sometimes my like regular job is very outside of the entertainment. I teach preschool, and in the summer I do summer camp. So it's nice to keep like be very separate, but if I were to ever want to, I guess, be more of a presence in the entertainment industry of any kind as like a career path, I sometimes I don't think about those like applicable skills that I have as just being like doing content creation and stuff. And like with gaming, I don't know a ton about the gaming industry, but I know a lot about playing games and streaming and things like that. And I always think, I was thinking the other day, I was talking to my boyfriend because they just launched this big Fallout mod, like Fallout London.
Oh, London, yeah.
And he spent like all day on Sunday trying to download it and figure out how to add it. And I was like, do these people that make these crazy mods like get hired somewhere in the gaming industry? Because like they're just out here doing this for free and for fun. And a lot of times it's like really good work.
Yeah, you can think of it as creating a portfolio. So a lot. This was many years ago. So I actually don't know if the same practices are in place today, but I remember a lot of positions, especially if you were to do like world building, narrative design, things like that. They would ask you to use their toolkit or show some, like Twine even back in the day. If you could showcase that skill in that same way, but it's the same thing that you would apply to as if you were to create a mod. I mean, that's what we did with our Fallout mod. You know, it didn't take off because some of those people actually developed enough experience where they did the thing and they actually became you know, what they wanted to do. And so yeah, it's all applicable and it's all valid.
Yeah, I feel like I guess we live in a society that is so driven by like our career, and can you turn your hobby into a hustle? And so like it's hard to think about people just doing stuff for fun, but it's valid experience, or like building a portfolio that you can take with you other places. Because like I have heard of lots of content creators who then move on to become like social media managers for companies and things like that, and they're bringing the experience that they have built themselves, not from like another job experience or something like that, which I think is really cool. That can happen.
Well, before we get on to our main topic, which, spoiler alert, we will be talking about video games today.
Yes. All day, every day.
We always like to ask our guests because we are a fangirl show, or as Brooke likes to say, we're fangirls in this house. I've got to say it. Yes.
I always say it.
We would love to know, Jackie, what was your first fandom and what would you say is your favorite fandom?
Okay, so I know that you ask your guests these questions because I do listen to the podcast, and this is very tough for me. Primarily because I grew up very sheltered. In my upbringing, it was very strict, and I didn't have a ton of access to, you know, the outside world, or you know, whatever you want to call it. But I would probably say anime was probably one of the first fandoms that I really got into. I mean, I grew up with Ranma One Half, Slayers, Sailor Moon, Voltron or Godian. So there's a lot of those shows that I grew up with, but it was really tough. We're gonna get into some like deep combo here, but it was really tough to like truly get into that because of the environment in which I was in, because not a lot of kids were into that. They were into other things. I was one of, I want to say, 3 Asian kids in school when I was growing up at the time, and so I didn't really have a fandom to dive into, but I knew it was something that I really really enjoyed, and that kind of moved into games over time. And again, I was solo player. I didn't do like a lot of multiplayer stuff because there was not that tie to meeting people outside of my little bubble or anything. But I would probably say like anime and video games would probably be my first, for sure.
What was your first video game?
God, I think it was Duck Hunt. I'm pretty sure it was Duck Hunt because I just remember this big ass TV that you needed 50 people to move it around, and my brother and I, we would just have like a really good time. We would cheat. We would like go right up to the screen, and because that poor dog, didn't want to make it sad. But I think it was like Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, Tetris.
Oh yeah.
I vaguely remember we got our first computer when we were, I think I want to say I was 12, 13, something like that. And I remember Dune and Lemmings for some reason. So like all of that is kind of like jumbled up, but I distinctly remember like one of the first games was Duck Hunt for sure. Might be dating myself a little bit, but there you go.
I mean, you could, but my first game was Sonic 2 for the Sega Genesis because my dad wouldn't let me play anything else.
Oh man, that's a good one. That soundtrack was so good.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Oh my, I don't even think I put that on the outline, but we got to talk about soundtracks. So note to self. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, do you have like a favorite fandom or?
Well, I mean, it's very topical for your podcast, but I want to say it's Star Wars right now because it's been a long time since I was able to kind of like dive into a fandom as a fan. How do I want to say this? Because there's certainly something for everybody. There's different types of platforms and mediums in which people can kind of like access this particular fan, and it's been around forever. The first Star Wars movie that I watched I was a baby, but it was Return of the Jedi. No idea what I was looking at. I just saw the cover and I was like, I want to rent that movie. And I just remember like pointing at the shelf. I'm like, she's pretty. I want to rent that one. And I had no idea what it was at the time. And it took a while for me to like truly understand how beloved this franchise truly is. But again, I didn't have the ability to talk to other people about it. So it kind of just stayed with me for the most part. And like Han Solo was the first crush ever of all time. I was like, oh my God, my first kiss is going to be like that too. Stuff like that. And it's just funny how it kind of came full circle. And so now that I work on Star Wars: The Old Republic, I can truly dive into that and not feel judged about it. I have teammates and friends who are just like, oh my God, let's talk Star Wars. I had people over for Acolyte every single week.
Awesome.
That's fun.
Yeah, and we would just like talk about theories and yeah. Now I miss not having them over every week, so that just means we need to have a second season, right? But yeah, I would say, I would say Star Wars is my favorite. Like I got to meet the both of you. I'm constantly meeting new people, and in turn, they are teaching me more about the fandom. So it's just a lovely, lovely exchange, and I love being a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you would have no disagreements from the whole panel over here, but I love hearing that you had people over for the Acolyte because I feel like I don't hear about in-person watch parties anymore. And I just really, we've said this like a million times, but I really feel like the Acolyte, there was just something special in it that has sent the fandom into a tizzy. Please renew the Acolyte. Please renew the Acolyte. please renew it. But anyway, yes.
Hoping the best.
Yeah, I love in-person watch parties. I know, like, because there's so much of the internet now is like, let's do a reaction video where we all get together online and we watch a thing and then we post a video. And it's not my favorite way to consume something. I like to have things for myself first. Like I always say, I'm never going to be that creator that is like the first person to review something or react to something or post a video about something. Because I like to I feel like I'm a fan first before anything else. So I like to consume it, keep it to myself, and then share afterwards. Like speaking of video games, every week. So I had my brother and his boyfriend over, and then two of my friends to watch The Last of Us when the show came out. And my brother and I were the only two people that had played the game. So that was really fun to be able to watch it and share that with him, but then also watch it with my friends who were experiencing the story for the first time. And I'm like, I wouldn't trade that for anything because it's so much fun. I love doing watch parties.
Yeah, it's very intimate. It's a very intimate setting. We do have ground rules though. So the friends who did come over, we decide who's going to grab dinner for the group. Next week someone else grabs dinner, and then but when we hit play, the rule is everyone shut the fuck up. Like, no one say a word. If you talk to me, I will ignore you. Like, there's like lights are off. We're just like glued, and we don't say anything until credits roll, and then we dive into our thoughts and everything.
But how do you stay quiet when Chimera kills all those Jedi?
I may have made noises, but actual conversation did not take place for those 30 35 34 35 minutes.
Hey, respect. I don't know if I could do that, but I get I can't. I so wish, not that I want a camera on my entire life, but y'all know me, I'm incredibly candid and incredibly like genuine. Like the things that I tweet come straight from my brain. I'm not polished at all. I just say shit. And when I was watching episode 8, like I just wish that there had been a camera on me because I was feral. I was like, I felt so bad for my partner because we had never watched like a new show together, and he had no idea what that was gonna. Hold on, I think that's him. He needs to be let in. Hold on a moment.
Oh my goodness, that's such a good time. Oh, I wish that I could just watch it all over again for the first time. It was very emotional. What a ride. We're talking about the Acolyte without you.
No!
Just kidding. I was just saying that it was an emotional ride.
No, but I can't believe all the people that got to have a signed poster of
Hey,
when I found out,
celebration, so
I know. Okay. Anyway, yeah. I might cry. I will cry actually when I meet him. But anyway,
me when I met Ashley Johnson, I kept it together and then I cried after. But anyway, shall we move on to our topic?
We should.
What topic do we have? Because I'm like,
we could talk about the Acolyte for an hour and a half.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
We could, and we have. But we thought that because we all love to game in this house, that we talk about some video game stuff. So just all the different things, our histories with video games, what kind of video games we like, all that jazz, and then a sprinkling of like some representation of women and female characters and all that fun stuff. So we kind of already talked about it earlier, but if we remember our first games or like what was our first console that we played on, I know I definitely played on the Nintendo 64 at some point. I never owned one, but like I would go to my cousin's house and they'd have like, I don't even know what game. There's a Pokemon game I remember playing vaguely. I had a Game Boy Color, I think was the first like handheld game. I remember playing like Pokemon Red, one of the first ones. But then my first like big console was the first PlayStation. I want to say my first game that I ever played was probably Tomb Raider at like the age of 3 or 4. And it was when my dad is the one who really introduced me to video games, and he had the PlayStation and he was playing Tomb Raider, which means that I was also playing Tomb Raider whenever he went to the bathroom, and I could get on the controller. So that was like my first, I think, experience with that I can really remember playing video games. And then of course there were lots of other games that we would play together as a family. My mom would play too. So that was really fun. So I feel like it's always been a part of my life in some way.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I mentioned too, I say Sega Genesis. It was my dad's. You know, he had the Genesis. He wanted me to see what original video games were like. But my first, like the first thing that I owned myself, when I was 5, I got a Game Boy Advance. It was blue, and there was this Disney princess game, and I don't know if y'all have seen those like knockoff. Hold on, I don't know if that's like really loud, babe. It's okay.
Oh, I can't hear anything if you're
Oh, that's
worried
good.
Yeah,
about
you're
it
good.
being picked up.
But I could hear it and I was not sure. Anyway, yeah, so there was this game, I keep seeing on TikTok these knockoff, like, this console has 96 games in it, and it's like some fake piece of junk. I don't know. But I saw somebody on TikTok Live trying to sell that thing, playing the Disney Princess game that I played when I was a baby, and I was so excited because I was like, "Wait, it was that game!" But yeah, so yeah, Game Boy Advance, big on Tetris. I've actually never played a Pokemon game.
Oh, they're fun. Highly recommend.
But yeah, but I grew up in a very Nintendo centric house.
Mhm.
I would say we had, of course, I mean, our Wii was a beloved artifact, family heirloom. I think we went through 3 of them. But you know, we had the Wii U, we had the DSi, we had the everything of. I remember when I got my first DS, it was this like limited edition, uh, rose gold DS Lite. And
Oh,
I was in love
pretty.
with that thing. And I remember one day I was playing in the basement. I was probably like 8, I don't know. And I came upstairs and my parents were like, "We have to tell you something." And I was like, "What?"
Oh,
Like,
no.
and my sibling had destroyed it. And I was obviously devastated, but what was the worst part about it is that it was limited edition, so they weren't making it
Right.
anymore.
Oh,
I had to
no.
settle for a regular pink one. But long story short, yes.
Aw, that's terrible. Oh, man. I have so you can't really see it, but I have, like, a whole bunch of games there, and I usually whoop, where are we going? Where are we going? Just kidding. Sorry. Where am I going? I'm going this way. Okay, we're gonna lean this way. But I tend to hang on to physical copies of games. I got rid of like my CDs and a lot of my books. I now read on like Kindle and everything like that. But video games are the one thing that I kind of keep physical copies of. I even have some of the SNES cartridges as well. Like I started off with NES. Also, okay, here's a fun question. Do you say SNES or do you say SNES?
I say SNES.
Oh my god.
I think I've only done SNES.
Oh
I don't
my
think I've...
god. There's at one point, I don't know when it happened. But at some point people started saying SNES. I'm like, what the fuck is a SNES?
This is like
like,
the at or
"It's Super
AT-AT argument.
Right. Yeah. And
You know what though? I think I would say, now that you mention it, I think I would probably say, like, if I was talking about a specific game, I would probably say for the Super Nintendo, not SNES. But I think if I'm casually like, "Oh yeah, the SNES," I
Mhm.
feel like, and I know people would look at me and go, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But
I picked
you
up
know
on
what?
it now, but yeah.
Yeah. But oh, the other thing I was gonna say is I did not have my own, besides the Switch. I didn't. I mean, the Switch is like both a console and a handheld.
Mhm.
Whoa! But I did not own my own console until I was like 22, and I finally bit the bullet. And I had like just a tiny little bit of like content creation money, probably the only content creation money I've ever made. And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna buy myself a PS5. And I'm so glad that I did because I love my PlayStation. It's awesome. And sometimes I forget that I have a Switch, but we're on a Zelda kick right now because my partner's never played
Nice.
Zelda.
Like any of
So
them?
That surprises me.
I know, right? I know. He played Breath of the Wild, and then he owns Tears of the Kingdom, but he never played it. And I was like, no. We live together now. We're gonna go back. And I love Skyward Sword. I know that's kind of a hot take, but I think it's one of the best Zelda stories.
You're gonna like what you're gonna like. Who cares what anyone else thinks? If you like it, by all means.
But I think people were just mad at the motion controls, which did suck, but whatever. But yeah, no, I love that game. So we bought the HD version for the Switch, and we're playing that one now. And then I don't know how we're gonna play Ocarina, but we're gonna go back and play Ocarina, and we're gonna go back and play. I could not do like time limits freak me out, so I could never, as a kid, play Majora's Mask because I was like, oh, you have a limited time to solve the puzzles on day one, or the moon will fall on you. And listen, when you're 8, that moon looks terrifying, and you don't.
It's terrifying now.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh my god, that thing.
But anyway, I guess this is a good segue into like what are our favorite consoles and favorite like game memories that we have and favorite games. What is it? Can everybody pick a favorite game?
I
don't
pick,
know.
Like, top
Brooke can.
3 to 5, but like
I don't know. I don't have an entire shelf. I don't have a tattoo.
Incredible.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I'm with you, Jackie. I can do a top 3. So Jackie, why don't you go first?
So I'm very much a RPG girly. So top 3 has been the same. Suikoden 2, Chrono Trigger, and Final Fantasy 6. I have the fondest memories playing them. I just remember being absolutely obsessed with them. But if I were to extend that list, I would throw in games like Jade Empire. I love story-driven games. I love quirky, fun characters, dark characters. Just all across the board. I'm very much into story-driven, heavy narrative games. So it's a very tough list. I know I have a top 10 somewhere, but yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
What about you, Brooke? Can you do 3?
I think I've tried this before, and it's really hard to choose like a top. I mean, my top 2 like game series would be like the Jedi games and then The Last of Us. But if I had to choose between the 2, and I've said this before, I think on the podcast, I would pick the Last of Us Part 1 and Jedi Fallen Order, because there's something so intimate about it being such a small story featuring just very few characters and their relationships, and that's something that I value in stories. And it's not to say that The Last of Us Part 2 is not amazing and that Jedi Survivor did not build on Jedi Fallen Order. It just got bigger, which is great, but not like the same. It didn't give me exactly the same feeling, if that makes sense. So if I had to choose those, I would do that. And it's really hard for me to pick a number 3. I want to say it's probably Kingdom Hearts 2. Because Kingdom Hearts, if I had to pick out of any of them, it would probably be 2, which is, I think, the popular choice there. But I do love 358 over 2 days, but more the story than the actual.
Yeah.
I have yet to really dive into Kingdom Hearts, but I can't find one person who can explain to me what that game is about. I was like, so tell me about Kingdom Hearts. And then they're like, I can send you some links that describe some of the stuff, because I can't tell you about it. It doesn't make any sense when I tell you about it. I'm like, that's not helping the cause here. But
there was a brief moment. There was a very brief moment in which because I didn't get into Kingdom Hearts until COVID. And I went home from college and my sibling was playing through them for the first time. And this was before I really was like a gamer. And so I just would sit and watch them play Kingdom Hearts. And I got the whole story and I fell in love with it, but it wasn't until I had my own PlayStation that I was able to play it. And there was a brief time in that, like during the pandemic, where I was like, I do Star Wars lore, I can do Kingdom Hearts lore, It doesn't matter. I could sit here and I could tell you the whole fucking plot, and you would still ask me 10,000 questions because it's just like one of those things you have to play it yourself. And I adore Kingdom Hearts. I think my list, to kind of segue, like my number one at the top of that list is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, which is a hot take, but it is, in my opinion, the best story. And I also really like the combat style of that game. But you know, and my partner and I, we essentially met because of Kingdom Hearts, so it's very near and dear to me. But it's confusing. It's like
I say I love Kingdom Hearts. I don't know anything about it. I love it. I loved it enough to get. I have a Last of Us tattoo. I also have a Keyblade. Couldn't tell you anything about
that's
it.
incredible.
but you know,
Oh my
it's
God.
like it's amazing. I love it. I adore it. Oh gosh, but now I have to pick two more. Okay, my list has actually changed. My list has changed since we started this podcast. And I think, I don't know if I'm gonna put it my 2 or my 3 spot. Actually, wait, let's pull up. I don't know what I put. What did I
You can
put
feel
as?
differently
Oh,
tomorrow, honestly.
I could feel differently
Just-
tomorrow. Okay, I'm gonna do a top. Can I cheat and do a top 5? I'm so
Yes,
sorry.
Go
yes,
for
you're
it.
the host. You can do that.
Okay, so we're still doing Birth by Sleep at number 1. Number 2 is gonna be Resident Evil 7, Biohazard.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Love that
Mhm.
game. I really do not like Village, and that is also I am full of video game hot takes. I don't care. I'll talk to you all
That's
day
okay.
about them. And but then at number 3, I'm gonna put the most fun I've ever had playing a video game, which is Resident Evil 4 Remake. And then I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put Fallout New Vegas because I just played it,
Hey.
and
It's a fantastic game.
it's a really good game. As much as I those Fallout New Vegas fanboys, woo! Oh my god, no, thank you. But the
Mhm.
game itself is quite good. And then I think I'll put Last of Us Part 2. That'll be number 5. Is I understand Brooke's perspective on it, like the original standalone story, which is also great. But there was something like so. It was just an experience. I don't know, like it was like video game plus. And I think I will always remember the feelings that I experienced playing that game. So
Yeah. Well, that game holds a special place in my heart too, and just knowing that they brought in a woman to co-write the story was so important to the story and the characters. So I love it. I love it all. It's hard to
yeah.
choose.
But I
But-
also love indie games. Like indie games
yeah.
are amazing. Indie developers are amazing. Undertale was an indie game. I don't know if it is now because it's this massive entity. It became one of the most popular video games of its time. It's almost 10 years old, which is crazy. Stardew
Is it?
Valley, yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think 2025 is 10-year anniversary.
Where did time go?
And I love Undertale. I really love Undertale and Deltarune. I think that like every queer person needs to play those games. And also like this isn't indie really, but like Ace Attorney and
I love Ace Attorney. Holy crap. I just recently replayed a lot of the games, like in the last year.
Yeah. I started replaying them, but then I was like, that's another thing. Like my partner not only did he not play Zelda, but he just like wasn't a Nintendo kid, and except for Pokemon, and I was a Nintendo kid except for Pokemon. So, I need to catch him up. But like, yeah, Ace Attorney, Professor Layton. I don't see anybody ever talk about the Professor Layton games. They're puzzle games, and they did like a Professor Layton crossover with Ace Attorney once. I loved those games as a kid.
I need to introduce you to my friend Jared. He's obsessed. He loves Professor Layton. Oh my
And
God.
Nintendo announced that they're producing another one, but they've like gone kind of silent on when it's coming out. So I'm like, because they tried to end the series and then like introduce his daughter, and nobody was into it. So now they have to go back and do the regular Professor Layton. But yeah, Ace Attorney, big time. Oh my God, there was this. Oh my god. Am I gonna? You know what? I've said some crazy things on this podcast.
It's
I'm
your
gonna do
show.
It is. I when I was like 15, I came across this server online. I'm pretty sure it was operated on 4chan. Not proud of that, but I was 15. I didn't know what 4chan was. Yeah, it was a server that did Ace Attorney, like it was called Ace Attorney Online, and they had these Google Docs where you would fill out the case, you would put in the evidence, you would decide who were your witnesses, who was your detective, who was your whatever, and then you would play through a case for like 6 hours, and it was like role play. It was like basically TTRPG Ace Attorney. And I, for the longest time, you were supposed to be 18 to be in the server, of course, but I was lying about my age because who didn't? And I think I was 15, and I decided I was so sick of the defense winning that I was gonna play Franziska von Karma, and I was gonna turn the tables and win. And so I won like 10 cases in a row as the prosecution, and I pissed everybody who used that server off because they were like, "This is not how the game is supposed to go."
Amazing.
I think you just had, the better skill set there.
I did. I convinced the jury. I remember vividly convincing the jury that there was like they had the murder weapon was like a knife or something, and I was like, no, actually the murder weapon was, because it was in a pharmacy, it was where the murder took place. I was like, actually the guilty person stabbed someone with an EpiPen twice in a row, and that was how they died. And I made a convincing enough argument because I was like taking like AP Psych or something, and I knew all about like what epinephrine does, and I convinced them that but anyway, someone else talk, so I stopped yapping.
Stop yapping on a podcast called Yap Sesh. Okay.
Yeah, I was always a PlayStation child. That was what the games that I was introduced to from, like, we had the PS1 from when I was really little. I don't remember exactly what year it came out, but we got it. And then we got the PS2, which I maintain is the best PlayStation. And so there's like games I vaguely remember playing probably when I was too young. Like I said, Tomb Raider, like one of the very first ones. I remember I specifically remember I killed a monkey and my dad came back and was like, "Did you touch the controller?" And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. But
Amazing.
I was gonna ask if like the games that you were introduced to are the same type of games that you prefer even now, because I know I was always playing like the like action adventure single player games. I loved like all the original Spyro games and like Crash Bandicoot and Sly Cooper. I remember playing those back like all the time. I played Kingdom Hearts when it first came out, but it was too hard, so I ended up quitting and never finished it for like years and years. And then my brother and I went back right before Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. We played all of them again, and I was like, I don't think I've ever actually finished this game before. So that's the type of game that I still prefer. I don't know if you all feel similarly or not, but
I would say usually my preferred would be, like I said, story driven, so RPGs, but that doesn't mean that I will not try out other games. Like
yeah, of
I
course.
have a love-hate relationship with horror games. I didn't finish it yet, but I was playing Little Nightmares 2. Fantastic game. Terrifying. Absolutely horrific, and lives up to its name, but it is a beautifully done game. And being in game dev, you have like a different appreciation for the things that go into a video game now. And so I was like, oh my god, the level design, oh my god, the audio, and so you have like a different perspective going into games. Sometimes I'll play cozy games. It's like, let's do a little coffee talk. I want to be a barista today and not have to do anything. I tend to stay away from some games because I just know I'm terrible at them. Like platformers, suck at platforming. As a kid, Aladdin on the Sega, that was fine. Could beat that game. Today, no, absolutely not. I can't. That's why I struggle a lot with like the Metroid games.
Mm.
I will watch someone else play that, but go Samus, go off Queen. But what else? Baldur's Gate 3
Ugh.
is a current obsession, which I think thousands and thousands and thousands of other people can
I have the one thing about like because I play it on PlayStation is that when you get to the homepage of the PlayStation and whatever game it's like highlighted on, it will show in the bottom corner how many hours you have logged in said game. And that number just keeps ticking up and up and up on Baldur's Gate 3. And I told myself I'm going to play at least one new game every month of this year. But then I got Baldur's Gate 3 for Christmas. So see how that turned out. I have been playing other things, not just Baldur's Gate, but that has taken up a lot of my time.
Yeah. Elden Ring is another one too.
Yeah, gosh. I really want to play Baldur's Gate. That's like a need. I need to do that at some point. This year was the year that I explored, like, I mean, I do play a lot of, like, I mean, I guess Kingdom Hearts is more of a JRPG, but, and I've played KOTOR, obviously. I love KOTOR 1 and 2, whatever, but, with both of those games, every time that I play them, I play, like, the correct choice with the canon story. And so I've always like had a difficult time playing like player choice based games. So this year was the year that I finally had to break out of that because I watched the Fallout show and I loved it, and my partner is a huge Fallout fan and he's also a huge Magic the Gathering fan, and they did like a collab with Fallout this year, and so I played Fallout 4 first. Actually, basically I played 4 and New Vegas at the same time, one on my laptop, one on my PlayStation, and I had no choice but to create my own character and make choices for these characters, and like, so I think I'm ready to play Baldur's Gate now because I needed a little exposure. I guess, I mean, I have played SWTOR, and that was actually the first time in which I was like, I think my first character in that game was my Raylo baby OC that I talked about last episode. But then I moved on and I made this Chiss Jedi that I really, really liked, and that I was able to, choose her path. And she's got beef with her husband Theron Shan, but
Hello,
that's
husband.
Neither here nor there. And I love me some Valkorion. I'm not gonna lie. He could get it. I think I'm on a lag.
Uh-oh.
Do you want to leave and come back in? See if that helps.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah.
All right, and we're back.
Hello, welcome back to Yap Sesh. I'm in a different setup because my computer decided to take a giant shit.
Where were we talking about? Okay, so we were talking about different types of games and what types of games we like to play. I would love to talk a little bit about the world of streaming and how I think it has increased the accessibility of video games, particularly in the way that video games they're an amazing storytelling device. And I think more and more people are discovering that because there is like a level of accessibility. If you don't have a console, they're expensive. Not everyone has played video games before, but they want to know, maybe they watched the Fallout show or The Last of Us or one of the adaptations and they want to go back and check out the video game. I think in that sense, streaming has made it a lot more accessible for people to experience video games, which I love.
Yeah, I agree. I would say that even like not just the fact that like everything you said with the accessibility of consoles themselves and how expensive video games have become. I mean, the game I was saying earlier that I bought Skyward Sword HD. That game came out like 4 years ago and it's still $60. And it's like, whoa. Um, for the Switch, which at this point, compared to everything else on the market, is a pretty dated console. Um, and but I would also say that there is a level of accessibility, like genre wise. Like Jackie, you were talking about horror games that you
Mm.
have a difficult time playing. But I think that horror and especially like psychological horror games have some of the best narratives in all like of video games, and that's long before I was playing my own games. I was watching streamers play horror games because there was something accessible about, I didn't have to. First of all, I wasn't like in first person dealing with a jump scare, and second of all,
Mhm.
whenever there was a jump scare, there was this buffer of Markiplier or Jacksepticeye or whoever it was
Mm.
going, fuck, hey, you fucking guy, like, weird voice. Like there's something about that makes it a lot easier to digest for the viewer. And so I was able to experience a lot of stories. I mean, there's still games that those creators have played that have scarred me for life. Like I think of Soma, which I think came out in
Mm.
like 15 or something like that. I don't know. That game I still have nightmares about because that concept to me, first of all, like anything underwater freaks me out. But like the whole psychological horror aspect of that. And there was also like a mini series on YouTube that was released in conjunction with the game, and like that fucked me up, but I was able to digest it because YouTubers and streamers, you know, the engagement with it's a show. They're putting on a show for you when
Mhm.
when they play the game, and I think it's so crazy how that's become a career of its own.
Yeah, the replayability too, it plays
Mhm.
another factor because you could have already played the game, but you just kinda wanna see how someone else does it.
Oh my
Like,
god,
Oh yeah.
what decisions
seen
they make,
I think
their
I've probably
insights.
watched like 7 playthroughs of Resident Evil 7. That's how much I love that game.
Nice. That was a terrifying game. I so appreciate okay, tangent, sorry. We're I so appreciated how Resident Evil, it went back into the horror genre.
Oh yeah.
Because 5 and 6, and I think there was another one in between, good games, but focused a lot more on action rather than horror.
Mhm.
And so that's such a departure from oh, it was so good. Within the first, what, 5 minutes, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be
Oh yeah, yeah.
absolutely
I've
terrifying."
actually never played it myself, and then a couple of weeks ago I finally downloaded it and I was like, "Okay, it's time to face it head on." Cuz I know the game inside and out. I knew I'd be able to do it, but it doesn't matter. It does not matter. It's so scary. Brooke won't play Resident Evil because she is terrified. I keep trying to get her to play 4 because I don't think 4 is that scary. Like the Ganados as villains are a lot less creepy to me as like than zombies and the mold monsters. But
I'm not a big jump scare person.
there's
That's like,
only one.
but like it's just the anticipate. Listen, I played when
Uh-huh.
The Last of Us was my favorite game. I played both of them with a walkthrough, not because I needed to know how to play the game, but because I just needed to know when the scary parts were. Um, and so if I play any of those, and everyone tells me to play 4 because they're like, you would 100% be a Leon Kennedy girly, and I'm like, I know, but I don't know if I can put myself through that, or my boyfriend, because I will make him sleep with the lights on for a week and a half at least. And he's like, you're not allowed to play scary games because of that.
Would you play a scary game for charity?
I could get behind that. I could get behind if I was doing it like on a stream with other people, so I was
Mhm.
like not alone. I could probably handle that.
Yeah,
I would donate a lot of money to that charity just to watch.
It would be quite entertaining, I'm sure.
I want to stream so bad. I mean, that's like the one avenue of content I haven't done yet, and I don't have the equipment. I don't know if I would be good at it. And now that, but I do feel strongly that I have the video game skill to do it now. And I get that that's not necessarily a requirement, but I feel like I've played enough games of my own, like big girl games, where I can be like, yes, confidently I can start this game and I can start like I'll die a lot, but
I
You have to be good
listen.
at games to stream.
There is if I want anyone to take something away from this conversation, is that there is no wrong way to play a game. I always say I'm a gamer, but I'm not good at games. I enjoy them a lot. I would not say that I'm the best or very good at any of them, but I have a great time when I play. And streaming is such an interesting avenue. It takes a lot. If you are really good at talking to yourself,
Mhm.
it is easier. It's a lot easier when you have an audience that is engaged in interacting with you, which is something that I've actually really enjoyed. TikTok has changed so much as an app from when it first started, and I complain about the algorithm every day. Not, so many people I know are not receiving the same views or engagement that they had, that they had been when they first started. But something that they have been pushing a lot is streaming and streaming games, because that stuff shows up on my For You page all the time. And I haven't streamed this summer just because I've been too busy. But I did stream right before summer started. I started playing Red Dead Redemption 2, which I have not played before. And I had never seen so many people, because I would stream on Twitch, but also tangentially on TikTok too. And I had like, 20, 25, 30 people at a time watching. I was like, I've never had this big of an audience before. And it was really fun because I had people commenting and like actually engaging with me. And I didn't have to feel like I was putting on like a performance for
Mhm.
anyone, because I was just, reading the comments and talking back at people that had questions and blocking people that would spoil stuff. But
Mhm. No, that's always I say I talk to, like, my dishwasher a lot. I just have, like, random open conversations, and that you're right in that doing stuff like that is beneficial for when you are streaming. Because even if you have, like, a couple of viewers, like, you still want to have some type of engagement, even
Mhm.
if they are lurking or whatever. So, find points in the game where, you can express your opinions about a particular scene or a character or the environment or stuff like that. Just get it out there,
Mhm.
honestly.
Really with the
Oh, you
alcohol.
were
I've had such a long day. I just texted him and I was like, "Can you please bring me a fucking drink? I cannot."
Nice. I'm currently hydrating.
I have water. I've been drinking my water, but it's time for a drink. Anyway, yeah, no, I think now that we're at this apartment and I can borrow a setup, I'll that's an avenue I'll go down soon. That or voice acting. We talked about that. I think that's what we were talking about before uh everything went to shit with my camera. We were talking about voice acting. Because you were saying, because I was trying to ask you, I want to hear the southern accent. I still haven't heard it.
Maybe one day. It's hard for me to
Bitch,
just
I
be like,
pretended
"Ah,
to be
yes."
British for 8 months. You can show.
Oh my god. Not the British era.
The British era.
Yeah,
Oh, dear.
Jackie, if you're not, for Jackie and those who are not acquainted with who I have been on the internet for the past 4 years, for the first 8 months of creating content, I pretended to be British. Why did I do that? I don't fucking know. But there's a couple people who were like, we knew, but that's a fucking lie. It's a lie. I have a great British accent and I do a lot of voices, so one of these days, it's gonna. But
Yeah, just have fun with it. I just write up a script and don't even have punctuation in it. Just do a couple of reads and be like, well, what if I used, this type of tone or this type of setting? How does it change? It's always fun to try and figure out several different ways to read the same paragraph. That's always been a really fun exercise.
Yeah. I mean, I could never be like a actor, like a live action actor, because I have autism and my normal happy face and my normal angry face and my normal sad face but I can emote with my voice. I've been told. But anyway, I don't even have the outline up anymore. What else are we talking about?
Favorite memories, I think, while playing a game
Oh yeah.
was something that we were gonna cover. I think it was brought up like earlier, but we didn't really go into depth about it or anything. Anyone can take the floor. Well, I mean, I could talk about a memory I had with Gears of War 2. I'm pretty sure it was Gears of War 2. So this was back when I was playing the multiplayer mode, the Horde mode, and it was just like 50 waves of enemies, and you could play with friends or you could just like, group up with random people. And at the time I was playing solo, and then I got grouped up with these guys and had the headset on and everything, and we were doing fairly well. We had like a really good group, and we came up with a really good strategy and helping each other out. We made it through like wave 33, I want to say. And I remember I got knocked down and I'm like crawling around bleeding out. And then one guy's like, dude, I can't get to her. Go get her, go get her, go get her. And then, no, dude, go get her. And so, he revives me. And I was like, oh my God, thank you for saving me. And he's like, no, thank you for gracing us with your presence. And it was so adorable. And they were,
oh my
they were such
God.
a fun group of guys to play with. Oh my gosh. So, because, when you hop
I'm
into
so glad that it was a
these
positive
groups, like,
experience.
you
I
just
was gonna
never
say
know.
that's so wholesome. I've seen like just watching people post clips on TikTok of their experience as a woman who play like online, and just the vile things that I hear a lot of men say to them is crazy. So I'm glad that there are some good stories out there in the world too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But
Yeah.
that is a great story. Yeah, and you know what? We were talking earlier about like whether or not the games that we were introduced to as kids are the games that we prefer to play. And I would definitely like I've always struggled with multiplayer because beyond like I can get down with a good like Jackbox Night or Mario Party or something like that because I grew up playing like the Wii family games with my whole family and whatnot. But I do not do well with multiplayer. Like I've played Battlefront. It's fun. It can be fun if you have a good group of friends that you're playing with, but I don't that's not what I would gravitate towards in comparison to, like you said, story driven games and like single player stuff. I like to play, like, I think for me, some of my fondest memories of gaming were because my sibling was so into video games, like they were the gamer of the household. I have a lot of fond memories of sitting with them and watching the stories unfold while they were the one playing the game, or on the off chance that I really did want to play, I would play the story part and then I would call them over to do the boss fight because I was like, I can't do this. But for my anecdote, I think my fond memory that I'd like to share mostly is that
No.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh no. Sorry, you're gonna have to repeat that.
You
Oh no.
froze a little bit.
No. How is that so perfectly timed?
am I still frozen?
No, you're good.
No.
You're You're I think
You're a little
good.
fuzzy,
Wait,
but
what are
not
we-
frozen. That's okay.
Okay. I'm good. Am I good?
Yeah. Yeah. A little lag,
lagging?
but you're okay.
What the
Little
fuck
bit.
is going on, man? Okay. Anyway, I'll just try to talk really fast. My anecdote is that of choosing is probably I said earlier that Billy and I met because of Kingdom Hearts. We met on Hinge, but we met because of a Kingdom Hearts prompt that I had. And at the time, he lived really, really far away from my current location. He just had his settings. It was just, fate had it that we would meet. And I was trying to get as many trophies as I could on Kingdom Hearts 1. I'm not that great at games, but I was like, I'm gonna get all the trophies. So I tried to do all at the same time. 0 continues, 0 gear upgrades, and a speed run to get 3 trophies in one. Why did I do that? I have no idea. Please don't do that. But I had been talking with him for a couple weeks, and he was a little hesitant about meeting up just because we were so far away from each other, and he had never dated somebody. That was a risk to take, like a 2-hour train ride to like go on a date. But I was like, hey, why don't we do a Discord call? I am trying to beat this game and get these 3 trophies. And he stayed up with me for like maybe 6 hours so that I could beat the game. And I beat the game, and I sacrificed the no continues. I used 1 continue, but I was like, fuck it. I have no gear upgrades. This is the final boss. I've also done the speed run. I've made it this far. I'm just gonna take the 2 and call it a day. But then it didn't give me the gear trophy right away. And I was like, sitting there for like watching the credits roll for 10 minutes going, if they do not give me this fucking trophy. But they did after the credits were done. But yeah,
Nice.
it's a fond memory of mine. What about you, Brooke?
Good question. I have like actually a lot of fond memories of games. When I was little, like I said, my dad was really who introduced me to playing games, but my mom would play with us too, and like not to trauma dump or anything, but my parents divorced when I was younger, and I have mostly like negative memories of their relationship, but I do fondly look back on when we would all play games together, and like I'd be playing, and then I just like Sawyer, you said like you couldn't beat a certain part, I'd like pass the control over to mom, and then if mom couldn't do it, she'd pass the control over to dad. And that was a really fun thing to be able to share together. And my brother is also a big gamer, probably even more so than me. So it's kind of been ingrained into our lives. Honestly, similarly to you, Sawyer, I was introduced to The Last of Us because my brother was playing through it. And the scene that I watched was like the Sam and Henry scene. And I was like, this is crazy. I didn't know that video games could have like this level of storytelling. And I was like, I gotta play it now myself. But my boyfriend, we've never really played games together very often. He loves Call of Duty, all of those games. And I think also because of being a woman or being a girl growing up, I did not have I didn't have girlfriends that were also playing games, and I didn't have a lot of guy friends that I like felt comfortable playing with, I guess. So I never really got into that space of playing things like Call of Duty, or playing online with other people. I would play a lot of Sims with like I'd have sleepovers and we'd play Sims all night, but that was kind of the extent of that. So we have like very different tastes of games. He loves Fallout. So we do have like some similar interests, but what I really like is that we parallel play. So we'll have like he'll be at his PC playing whatever, and then I'll be on the PlayStation on the TV next to him and playing my own thing. And it's like we're still spending time together. We're just doing our own thing.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about whatever. We might have like a sports game on in the background or a TV show or something else. So that's a really fun thing that we share sometimes. And then I think my other fun memory is being able to go to Halloween Horror Nights with Sawyer last year. Because when they announced that they were doing a Last of Us house, I was like, well, that's it. Guess I'm going to Orlando. And luckily I had someone who was
Awesome.
like willing to go with me, and we made a really fun trip out of it. And so that was super cool. And she got to see me disassociate and also like just freak out over something so cool that I love. So
It
that
was
great.
so funny because I've talked about this before, and I'll say it again. Like I in my adult life, I'm finally learning how to make friends with other women, and like Brooke is the first friend of mine that I've been able to become really close to in that space, largely because I didn't know I was autistic and I didn't know how I interacted with other women. I always struggled with it. But in that moment, I didn't know what was going on. And she was like like just completely stoic, but she was so excited. She just couldn't she did not know how to interact with anybody or anything except for, oh my god, we're here at the Last of Us haunted house. And that was the only house we went to.
I don't like scary things, but I was like, I have to sacrifice to go to this.
But
Awesome.
no, it was a really wonderful trip. And they had you know what, I'm not the biggest Universal fan, but I have to hand it to them. The theming they did for The Last of Us and the cordyceps corn dog that they did, genius marketing. I could only take one bite because I was like, this thing is gonna turn me into a zombie.
Is there a photo of what that even looks like?
I think I have one somewhere. I'll see if I could find it.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah, it was like
wild.
It was like a Korean corn dog, so it was like the cheese, with the cheese in it and everything, and then like on the fried on the outside was cordyceps. It was interesting.
Huh.
It was terrifying. But fantastic marketing on their part. But speaking of The Last of Us, something I really wanted to dive into with this episode, because our focus on this show is highlighting feminine experiences, I'd really like to talk about some favorite female video game characters, and just the response to them, but also how that's evolved over time, because I think that we're all very familiar with certain characters that were created specifically with a male audience in mind, but women have always been gamers. We've always been here. So I would like to dive into that a little bit. I listed in the outline, I listed all the ones I could think of, but like any takers on that conversation? I would like to talk about Abby Anderson. That's why I said speaking of The Last of Us. But
Yeah, why don't you just start
yeah,
there,
I
and then
mean,
we can just
yeah, I think that there was a list that came out a few months ago that was like the top 100 video game characters of all time. I don't know who made that list, but it was like there were so many fundamental characters missing from that list, and so many characters that nobody had ever heard of on the list. And I was like, what is happening here? But Lara Croft was number 1. And I think Lara Croft is a great character, but of course she is known for the triangle boobs. And there's a lot of other characters that were designed that way, like Chun-Li or Samus, was not designed that way, but then they had to go and make the Zero Suit version of her. I can't remember which game she appears first in that, but like her Smash Bros outfit as Zero Suit is a certain way that is catered towards a certain audience. And I think really only in recent years have we started to get a lot of really great, really dynamic female heroes. We've had a few over time. I think Jill Valentine is a great example. I think she's a pretty awesome female character in video games. And even Claire Redfield as well, Resident Evil. I really like her. I wish that they did a little bit more with her. But then we have these really interesting characters like Abby Anderson from The Last of Us Part 2, who did not even get a moment to breathe before the hate started coming. her way. You know, fictional character, but still, she's not conventionally attractive. She's not thin. She's not, you know, she's not Lara Croft. Spoiler alert for The Last of Us Part 2. She kills Joel Miller. And I'm pretty sure that information was leaked before the game came out. Thank you. And so from the get-go, this character was despised. And she had an unfair disadvantage imposed upon her. But if you play the game, her arc is basically the same as Joel's in The Last of Us Part 1. And she has character development. She grows a lot. I think there is a lot to her character about the fact that she's buff, she's strong. She's also has a she has like a pseudo romantic interest, which is something we don't see from characters who look like Abby a lot of the time. And for me, I think she's one of my favorite characters in that franchise, and I think that she left a lasting impact on me when I was playing through it. But I played through it as a woman, and I played through it after several years had passed and a lot of the like initial reaction had died down. And I played through it knowing exactly, I knew probably before I even watched the TV show what eventually happens to Joel Miller. So I wasn't like shocked or anything. That wasn't information that was kept from me. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to talk about her, but also other female characters and which characters have resonated with you guys the most and which characters have, deserve that spotlight, but have received the unfair disadvantage because they're women, because they're, realistic women rather than just sex appeal for male gamers. It's it can be a heavy topic, but I think it's an important one.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think how I can respond to this, or contribute, I should say, is a better term for that. But I don't understand having a visceral reaction off the bat without having all of the information present. I've never understood that. I don't think I ever can understand that as much as you try to see things from another lens, from another perspective. And so I can't really answer that because I don't fundamentally understand it in its essence. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And I don't understand like hate and toxicity in general. Like, I don't understand where it comes from. I cannot relate in any way. If a character, if you love a character for whatever reason and I dislike a character, if we don't happen to agree on that, okay, I move on with my life. I don't understand having to up that in any way in a very negative light. And I certainly don't understand why there is such a negative reaction when there is a femme presenting character who just doesn't happen to be conventionally attractive or objectively attractive or whatever. It's just like, if we're going for realism in games, I don't know if you've ever seen women femme presenting people before, but we don't look all the same. We have different features. We have, I gotta be like super careful what I'm gonna say because I can get into like a huge rant, but it's kind of like, do you not know what people look like? What their interests are, like what they're into, what they stand for. Like it's such like a, do you have nothing better to do with your time type of argument. And I cannot relate to it at all in any way.
Yeah, it's hard for me too. I think being Star Wars fans, we see a lot of these visceral reactions to anything that comes out. It doesn't matter if it's a Disney property. We saw it when the prequels came out, the visceral reaction. I think maybe it might, I mean, besides the usual isms, the racism and the misogyny and all of that stuff that is a part of it. I think a lot of it stems from people having some sort of expectation of what something is going to be, and then when it turns out to not meet that made up expectation in their head, they just automatically dislike it because it's different from what they were envisioning. And I can understand to a point wanting something and getting something else and being disappointed, but I can't imagine like spreading so much hate and toxicity because of that. It's just like, wow, that sucked. I might complain to my friends like, oh damn, that didn't turn out how I wanted it to turn out. But just the hate that spews from so much of that stuff is also foreign to me. I don't really understand it. And as far as like female characters go, I think like multiple things can be true. Like there are a lot of female characters that may have been designed with like a male audience in mind, but if women identify with those characters and like them and enjoy their designs or want to cosplay as them, like that is everyone their choice to do so but also I guess recognizing the origin of the character. Like multiple things can exist at the same time, but for me, I really appreciate the female characters that have been written as like fully developed characters, three-dimensional characters with depth. And to me, it doesn't necessarily matter as much what they look like, but I am also a woman myself. I remember the posts when the Horizon game came out and people were photoshopping Aloy's face to make her look more like feminine or pretty, give her makeup, and it happens a lot. And it's so frustrating because to me, I'm like, this is like a female character. She's like a warrior. She doesn't have time to put on makeup.
Right.
Like she's out kicking ass. Why does she have like a full beat on her face? Like she doesn't need that.
Yeah.
Even I've seen like people Photoshop like Ellie from The Last of Us with like
oh my God.
makeup, and I'm just like, this is a post-apocalyptic world, and also she's a lesbian, so she's not for you men, like she was never for you. And it's so, also she was a child in the first game. I just want to reiterate that she was, just want to mention that she was 14. And I don't know, it's just misogyny. I don't know, that's the answer usually to all of this. I'm glad that we can have conversations like this with other like-minded people that enjoy the representation and diversity of how characters are designed in more recent times.
Yeah. And it's not just, I mean, like you said, like it's totally okay if women or whoever want to cosplay these characters and relate to these characters, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's just that there is, I think, my experience anyway, I've always been like gamer adjacent, but I've also known, I know everything there is to know about Zelda and Ace Attorney, and there, and a lot of other games that I haven't played, but that I've paid attention to just by association with my sibling or just wanting to be in the loop about those things. And it's like women have always been a part of the video game industry, whether it's just as a consumer or in the actual industry. And, it's I like to see a fully well-rounded, I can understand to some extent wanting there to be some suspension of disbelief, but no, I actually like when a character looks like a normal girl, who looks like me or who looks like my friends or has an interesting and challenging character arc that we have seen so many male characters be given throughout the history of gaming. And I like to see them have flaws, and I like to see, there's nothing. I love Abby despite her flaws. I feel like I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I know for a fact that there are. Oh yeah, okay, I have an example. Kratos is not a good person in the God of War games. But nobody is out here going on a tirade about how horrible of a person or a god that Kratos is. And there's still a lot of misogyny, and it's still, even now, even though it has died down, I can't. I think I tweeted something random about The Last of Us like a couple of months ago, and still my comments are like, I pretend that game 2 never happened because Abby Anderson is such a blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like,
Good for you.
cool.
Love that for you.
Thanks. Didn't ask.
I happen to like, and that's not to say that there haven't been some fantastic female characters throughout the history of games. I mean, Kreia, I want to talk about Star Wars for a second. Kreia is one hell of a villain, one of the most notable, fascinating Star Wars, but also video game characters of all time. And GLaDOS, I will always remember first learning about GLaDOS and going down a rabbit hole about the actress who portrayed her and how she had to like record the songs that GLaDOS sings without breathing and do so many different takes because GLaDOS is a robot. And I mean, I don't know who doesn't like GLaDOS. She's a phenomenal villain. And Zelda, honestly, I mean, Zelda has been a great heroine, and but I will say it took her some time to have more agency in her own legend, and I have loved her more recent stories because of that. But we've still never really gotten to play as Zelda. I think there's a game coming out soon where we will get to play as Zelda. But that really hasn't been an option. I think I've never played Hyrule Warriors, but I think you can play as her in that, but that's, not quite the same.
Yeah, it's a little different.
That's like Smash, but, I just, it's interesting. In some ways, I feel like the video game industry is ahead of the curve with some conversations, but then I feel like they're behind in others. I don't know if that's a shared sentiment, but
Depends on who you talk to.
Yeah,
for sure. It depends on who has the stage.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Depends on who's at that table.
Mhm.
So, but I can confidently say that there are many of like mind. So it's just sometimes unfortunate that they are not always in a position where they can comfortably say that from the chest. But going back to trying to get you to play Baldur's Gate 3, Karlach is at the forefront of my mind, and she's probably one of my favorite video game characters now. And I'm not going to spoil anything because I want you, if you ever have an inkling to try.
No, I do want to play it. I
And,
just don't have the funds to play it.
Karlach is such a fantastic character from start to finish. And Sam Bayard, who's the actor,
They're amazing.
or phenomenal.
Mhm.
When I was done with Karlach's story, I went to Sam and I said, I was crying. I was just bawling because it was such an emotional ride. And I said, this is almost practically replaced Morden as one of my favorite story arcs in a narrative driven game. And I wish I could say more, but I don't want to spoil anything. But Karlach is such a fun. You're going to fall in love with her within the first 10 seconds of meeting her. She's fun. She's quirky. She has her faults.
Mhm.
She's I mean, you can just tell by her character design, she's very hot-headed in many different ways, but there's such a vulnerability to this character, and
Mhm.
it just comes to a head when you get through, like, the main story arc, at as her as a companion. Now, Baldur's Gate 3 is pretty unique in that you can actually play the story as the companions, as the
Mhm.
main character. I have not done that yet, but, I can't imagine her being an even better character. She's already so perfect
Mhm.
as it is, so, I would probably say, like, she's perfect. No notes, 10 out of 10.
Wow.
I
Oh,
would let her throw me around, like, just, like, everything. Like, "You wanna be
Uh-huh.
besties?" Like,
Yeah,
Grace
and I
everything.
love I don't know
Mhm.
what it is about the character, but, like, I wouldn't I mean, she's a red tiefling, she's not, like, a human character, but she is, like she's very tall, she's very muscular, very, like I wouldn't say masculine because she still has a lot of, like, very feminine qualities about her, which is something that I really appreciate in female characters. I think a lot of times when a female character is written, to be, like, a strong female character, the idea of, like, romance and, like, femininity is kind of removed from the character because some people have that idea that you can't have both of those things, and I love that she's a character that because you can romance the companions in Baldur's Gate 3. And I haven't romanced Karlach in a playthrough yet, but I've seen lots of scenes and I'm just like, I love her. She's so cute.
Mhm.
I watched a video, I think it was of a convention. Someone had asked Sam Bayard about if they played the romance scenes with any particular person or gender in mind, and they said, like, "I honestly played it more of, like, with a, like, female character in mind, more of a WLW relationship," but there are still so many men who romance Karlach and still really like that romance, and it's cool that it's like, "Nah, I played this to be kinda gay, and men still like it." So it's crazy that that can happen, that men can like the same things that women can. Um, and it's so good. Yeah,
So,
big fan.
that's my endorsement for you.
I'm excited. I really, really, really want to play it. And the stats for the like 1 year of Baldur's Gate just came out, and of course there was all the like crazy, um,
All the
which
stats
all
they
the all
released.
the sex scenes or whatever. But for me, I was fascinated that you could turn into a wheel of cheese, and I want to turn into a wheel of cheese. So I will be playing it at some point. But I just wanted to say we have a live listener reaction, aka Billy, who has texted me that he will not stand for the Kratos slander because he's a great father. He just had to grow into it. So
Oh my
thank
god.
you, William, for this contribution to my podcast. But I mean, speaking of that, like, yes, we're talking about strong female characters and the ones that have resonated with us the most. But like, do y'all have favorite? We did the favorite games, but do y'all have like a list or a top 3 favorite characters of all time? Because I feel like there's something unique about video games because the player has such an intimate relationship with the characters in a way that's a bit different from watching a show or a movie or even reading a book that you really just have a chance to attach to characters in a different kind of way.
Oh, that's
You can't pick your own character. You can't pick your OC.
that's so difficult, though. I can't say confidently that I really loved, FemShep.
Mhm.
So Mass Effect Commander Shepard, s I don't know what else I can say about that because I did everything.
Yeah.
I laughed, I cried, bawled even. There were moments where I had to just walk away from the console and just have a moment to myself because I was so emotionally attached to what was happening. And Jennifer Hale's performance too is like just it was incredible. And the fact that Mass Effect is quite a what do you call, quite a time investment. It's a pretty huge time sink. So when you go from 1 to 3 and then you just kind of like complete that journey, um, God, you just feel like you lived 5 different lives. And yeah, I can say I don't know if I have like a list, but I know FemShep is up there for sure. And also like Garrus Vakarian for like a romance. Hello? Oh my God.
Is it the alien robot guy in Mass
He's
Effect? I don't know what
yeah,
he is,
he's
but
like
I've
a
seen
more
clips.
like bird avian type of
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I've seen clips and I'm like, you know what? I might be sold on this.
It's such a good oh, I'll send you some clips.
Please do.
It's so good. Oh, but yeah, oh my gosh. Mm, I would probably say too, I mentioned the game earlier, and this is favorite for a completely different reason. Um, when I was playing Jade Empire, that was really the first time that I felt that was like a perfect, because you can select different main characters for sure, but it was more the fact that it was a game that was based completely on Chinese culture. It wasn't, like Chun-Li from Street Fighter, which love her, adore her, please break me with your thighs. But it was the first time, like Jade Empire, I was like, this is a beautiful game. Like the scenery, the environment, the um the martial art forms, like all of that really resonated with a lot of my childhood, like the media that I grew up with and the media that I consumed. So I would say like choosing a character that can be transported into this type of world, I will never forget that feeling because it's like, holy shit, these people look like me and, they're like, it's all like the movies that I grew up with. And so it was that was a pretty cool moment for me. So I wouldn't say it was specifically the main character, but it's more that I could choose to be someone in this world that, selfishly I was like, oh, this is made for me. So that became a favorite for me as well. I don't know if that really answers the question, but
I think it does. I think that's a beautiful answer. What about you, Brooke? I mean, I could guess, but
You can guess my favorite characters? That's crazy.
yeah.
I'm just I love Joel Miller. Surprise.
Mhm.
I really love Cal Kestis playing Fallen Order the first time. Like I Rey is one of my favorite Star Wars characters, and I saw a lot of Cal in Rey, and I was like, I could make a whole series of videos about how they're very similar, character-wise and story-wise. But I think Jedi Survivor like built on his character a lot more, and it can be difficult when you're playing when you're the player character. You're spending so much time with this character, but in I've noticed, at least in some games, they will often kind of remove personality traits from a main character so it can be more of like a self-insert type deal. And I know that was
Ethan
something
Winters.
it was like something that I had seen people talk about. They're like, oh, Cal doesn't really have a personality. And I'm like, well, I think you're wrong. But I also I guess see where they're coming from a little bit, but they added so much more of him in Jedi Survivor as a character. So yeah, I love him. I'm trying to think back to like all of the older games that I've played and characters that I love from there. I always have a special place in my heart for Sly Cooper. He was probably one of my first video game crushes. I know he is a raccoon and animated. I am not ashamed. But he's a character that just had like my my brand of sense of humor. Um, I love funny men. What can I say? Um, but yeah, I mean, everyone from The Last of Us is such a good kind of well-rounded character that it's hard for me to choose
Yeah.
any of them. But all that good stuff.
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, I think the first person I'm jumping to is Sora, just because. And
Mhm.
this was like so interesting for me because I didn't like Sora when I was first watching my sibling play through the Kingdom Hearts games, and then when I went back and I played all of them, I didn't like. I get emotional thinking about how I would felt so connected to that character. But I think that it's not just Sora. I think Riku is a phenomenal character. I think that Hera deserves a lot more love than he gets from Birth by Sleep. But I think that we talk about what, the evolution of female characters and how we're starting to get into a space where these female characters are portrayed more accurately to our lived experience as women. But something I think that the Kingdom Hearts games illustrates so beautifully are providing like strong male role models in the main characters, especially with Riku. And that's a connection that I didn't make until I met my partner. But he grew up loving Riku, loving Roxas, and these characters, they go through some deeply emotional journeys as adolescent males. And, those games, yeah, I can't explain the lore to you very easily, but at the core, those games are about friendship. And those games are about true, meaningful, lifelong, life or death friendship. And the role models, like even I would even go as far as to say that the ending of the main villain's arc at the very end of Kingdom Hearts 3 has some semblance of like resolution for him and his soul and the emotional journey that he's gone through. And I think it's illustrated so beautifully, and I think that's something that we don't actually see a lot of in video games. And so, props to, that entire team over there at Square Enix for that. I don't know that I could say the same about Cloud Strife, but
Leave him alone.
um,
My little himbo.
but no, really, I think that Nomura created some very phenomenal male characters in his story, and but beyond that, gotta give props to the KOTOR, the OG KOTOR crew. I love them. Canderous and HK and Bastila and Revan. I mean, Revan is a self-insert. They are, but and of course I cosplay Revan and I love Revan. But and then of course there's my silly little guys. We can't forget the Turgles of the video game universe. And I don't know if the camera is picking up because it's been blurry, but my earrings are Krobus.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Stardew Valley. Love Krobus. Love Cuphead. I love Cuphead. Oh my gosh. I cosplay Cuphead. I haven't pulled out that cosplay in a while, but I loved cosplaying Cuphead. And Spampton from Deltarune. I got a lot of silly little guys, but they can make or break a game. Let me tell you. I mean, Jedi Survivor is a phenomenal video game, but Turgle, he just adds something special. Oh my gosh.
You love our little guys.
We should probably come up with like actual lists after this, after we're done recording, and be like, okay, now that I have some time to think about it, here's like my top 20.
It really is hard to like just think, because I know we're gonna finish recording and I'm gonna think about all of these other games and all of these other characters that I love. And I'm gonna be like, damn, I wish I talked about them, but I just could not think about it at the time in the moment. I love Nathan Drake. I love Uncharted. I played all of them for the first time this past Christmas break, or like past winter. There's a lot of games that I played a lot when I was younger, and then I spent a long time not playing, or just playing with my brother, but not really like trying new games. Especially like when I was younger, I wasn't buying a lot of games. We were replaying the same things over and over again. There was like this ATV like racing game loved if you like they had like a little free driving area that you could do like tricks and stuff. If you drove too far out of the map, it would like throw you like thousands of feet into the air, and it was like the funniest thing ever when you're younger. And my brother's 6 years younger than me, so I would always do it to like entertain him. But in recent years, I have now gone back into like gotten much more into playing games. That's why I said I've tried to play at least I want to try to play at least 12 new games this year. One a month, and we're slowly getting there. And I something I really would like is to try to branch out of the types of games that I like to play and invest more time in playing more indie games, because I love learning about them and seeing, when they do like the Game Awards or any other game show announcements or whatever. I'm always very fascinated by the indie developers that make such cool, unique games, and I'm just like, I just really need to like actually take the time to play them, because I think that's very important too, to give the attention to those indie companies.
Yeah.
One thing that we haven't even talked about are rhythm games. I love a good rhythm game. I'm not even gonna lie.
Man. I haven't played one in a hot minute. I think the last one I played was on the DS, and it was Agent Beats, something like I think I still have it.
Oh, Parappa the Rapper.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
That.
All right, we're here just sitting in the car. I want you to show me if you can go.
Wasn't that? I feel like that song was on TikTok at some point, and I was like, do people know what this is from?
I think you're right, actually. I keep doing that particular one because it's the only one I can remember for Billy, and he hates Parappa, and I'm just like,
oh my god, Elite Beat Agents. Oh
Elite
my,
Beat Agents. Oh
2007.
wow.
No, 2006. Oh my god.
Listen, I have been known. I loved Rhythm Heaven growing up. But like I will play Hatsune Miku, Diva, whatever it's Project Diva. I will play that. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I think that's really fun. Or like Kingdom Hearts had a rhythm game, Melody of Memory. I think I'm like the only diehard fan of that game because I love a rhythm game. It's basically Project Diva, but Kingdom Hearts music. And speaking of which, we haven't even talked about soundtracks. Like video game music, man.
Girl, we're like at 2 hours right now.
I know. I mean, we
gonna
did
have to
have
do
some technical difficulties,
Yeah.
but
Oh dear.
we should
Yeah, we'll have
probably wrap
to
up.
we'll have to come back and talk some more about games again, because we've yapped for
Yeah.
a long time, but we really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for coming
Yeah, this was fun.
and chatting.
This was a good time. Thank you
Do we
for
wanna-
having me.
Do we want to do rapid fire real quick?
Yeah, we can do a couple little rapid fire
Oh no,
questions
the pressure's on.
that we have, and then we'll wrap up. So we already did favorite games or
Yeah,
series.
let's-
Do you have a favorite Star Wars story? Can be from movies,
Anything.
TV shows.
I thought we were wrapping up. Oh my god. Favorite story? Shit. Okay. The two that jump out at me immediately is Ahsoka's story arc.
Mhm.
That poor girl, I just wanted to hug her so many times.
Mhm.
She was a child when all that started. That, and I would probably say just everything with Rogue One. I was not ready. I was not ready for that impact. So I would say Ahsoka for the overall, and Rogue One for definitely the realistic impact.
Mhm.
Good.
That's all I'm gonna say with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a favorite theme park?
Theme. Oh, okay, so I don't really do theme parks.
Okay.
Mostly because when I was younger, I had not so great experiences. Like I was with someone who was giving me shit for getting sick from a roller coaster,
Oh,
It was a whole
Boo.
thing, and yeah, they're exes for a reason. So, but I will say that I did go to my last trip to Disneyland. It's magical when you're a kid and going to Disneyland. It's even more magical when you go to Disneyland with adult money. And
oh
so,
yeah.
I went with friends who are huge nerds and into Star Wars and everything, and we were so compatible
Mhm.
going to that park together. And they were off their rides and doing whatever. I was like, I'm gonna go to Galaxy's Edge. Bye. And then I could just go and I ran into the Mandalorian out there. Husband or wife. I don't know who's under there. I'm good either way. But yeah, I would say that was a really, really good experience. And so therefore it's kind of like right up there. And we also went to Celebration too. So
Mhm.
we did a speed run. We got into the park, built a lightsaber, and then we ran back out.
I did that too. My ticket was I couldn't get the ticket for the day that everybody else in the group was going, so I got it for the day that Celebration started, and I was like in and out the whole day.
Oh.
But I don't think you're the alone in that. I think a lot of people who don't traditionally like love a theme park experience do have a fondness for Disneyland. I think there's just something about the OG Disneyland park that is just there's something there for everybody.
Yeah.
But okay, last one. This is gonna be another yap. I fear.
Oh no.
But I did not write this one. Brooke did. So you want to go ahead?
Did I write this one?
Yeah, I did not do this.
Okay. Your dream video game. If you could just poof one into
shit.
existence, what like type of game would it be?
Well, okay. We know that's going to be story driven.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
That's for sure. I would want diverse characters, certainly, because then you just get better story.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We would also need like a phenomenal soundtrack, of course. I think with the way that I'm feeling, because look, this answer is going to change depending on how the internet makes me feel these days. So right now, I just kind of want like something chaotic and
Okay.
maybe even like a little angsty. Like we're gonna end up having like a happy ending, but I'm feeling like a little bit, just like a very gut wrenching story.
I was gonna say you said chaotic and angsty, and I was like, oh my god, are we gonna kill the main character?
You know what? You know what? Anything goes. Anything goes. Like you don't get attached. But yeah, I don't know. I would probably say like answering seriously, I would want something immersive.
Mhm.
Whatever that means. I'm not entirely sure, but just something to take me out of gestures to the world right now and makes me just forget and just pulls me into that world. I think I would very much vibe with that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really
Beautiful.
interested in Hideo Kojima's new project where he's trying to do like a movie/video game. I don't know what
Oh,
he
the
has in
Jordan
mind.
Peele collab.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
really interested in because I know that I mean, what a guy. He's an interesting fellow, but
One of my
I
favorite Instagram follows because his
yeah.
posts are just all over the place. I love them.
I live for his movie reviews. But yeah, he is all about trying to get that like perfect immersion, and so I'm really interested in what's coming up on his roster. But thank you so much for yapping with us for 2.5 hours, Jackie. It's been a blast. One of my favorite episodes for sure. Would you
Yes.
like to tell the good people where they can find you?
I'm Geeky Fried Rice on most platforms. I think I'm pretty sure I use it all across the board. So Twitter, I refuse to call it X, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok. I'm not like super active on Twitch and TikTok, but they do exist. yeah, I primarily stick to Twitter these days, because one, work, but also like, I have like the largest audience there, and I have a lot of mutuals and friends over there as well, so they're kind of keeping me around and pretty grounded. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I post a lot of food pictures, so just as an FYI, I cook a lot. I live up to my
Love.
name.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was fun.
Yes.
Great time.
It was great. Thank you so much for
And-
having me.
Yes. Thanks for being on, and thank you everybody for watching and or listening, and we will yap with you later.